The waiter placed the leather folder on our white tablecloth, and Richard squeezed my hand before standing with that charming smile that had won my heart 40 years ago. "Just going to freshen up before dessert, darling," he said, kissing my forehead. "Order us the chocolate soufflé. You know how I love their soufflé." I watched him walk toward the back of Chateau Bisset, the most expensive restaurant in Washington, D.C., where reservations required a 6-month wait and entrees cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The crystal chandeliers sparkled above us, and I could still taste the champagne he'd ordered for our entire section. 23 bottles for 23 tables, he'd announced grandly, because my beautiful wife deserves to share her joy with everyone. That was 15 minutes ago. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Now it's been 30 minutes, and the waiter keeps glancing at our table. Not just any waiter, a young man with kind eyes who'd been extra attentive all evening, making sure my water glass stayed full, asking if the temperature was comfortable. He approaches our table again, and something in his expression makes my stomach tighten. "Ma'am," he says quietly, "I hate to disturb you, but would you like me to check on your companion?" "Oh, he's probably just chatting with someone," I say, but my voice sounds uncertain even to my own ears. "You know how Richard is, always making friends." The waiter's jaw clenches almost imperceptibly. "Ma'am, I need to be honest with you. Your husband left through the kitchen exit 28 minutes ago." The words don't make sense at first. "What? No, he went to the restroom." "I saw him, ma'am. He went straight through the kitchen and out the delivery entrance." The waiter's voice drops even lower. "And I'm very sorry to tell you this, but that check in front of you, it's for $5,347. My hands start shaking before I can even process the number. 5,000. I open the leather folder with trembling fingers, and there it is in elegant script. All those champagne bottles, the caviar he'd ordered as an appetizer for the house, the Wagyu steaks, the truffle pasta, the vintage wine I'd barely touched because it tasted like expensive vinegar. "There must be some mistake," I whisper. "Richard has his wallet." "He always handles—" "Ma'am." The waiter pulls out a chair and sits across from me, which seems wildly inappropriate until I see the tears in his eyes. "My name is Isaiah. I need you to listen very carefully. Your husband's name isn't Richard, it's Victor Volkov, and you're not his only wife." The restaurant tilts sideways. "What are you talking about? We've been married for 40 years. I have 2 children with him. You have 2 children with him," Isaiah says gently. "So did Helena, and Corinne, and Yolanda, and 4 other women that we know of so far." I can't breathe. The chandeliers are too bright, and there's a ringing in my ears that won't stop. "Who are you?" "I'm your grandson," he says. "Terrence's son. And Grandma, we've been looking for you for 3 years. My mind splinters into 1,000 pieces. Terrence. My son who stopped calling 2 years ago. Who wouldn't return my messages. Who sent me a letter saying he needed space to process some things, and would I please respect his boundaries. I'd cried for weeks, wondering what I'd done wrong, what kind of mother drives her own child away. "Terrence knows?" I managed to ask. "We all know. Vanessa too. Grandma, we hired private investigators. We spent every dollar we had trying to track him down, trying to figure out who he really was. When we finally did..." Isaiah pulls an envelope from his jacket pocket. Not a fresh envelope. This one is yellowed with age, the edges soft from handling. This was left here 14 years ago by Helena, Victor's first wife, the one who was supposed to have died in a car accident in 1983. My 40th anniversary. Richard had taken me to Chateau Bisset for our 26th anniversary too, the year after Terrence graduated college. We'd sat at a different table, but the same champagne, the same caviar, the same grand gestures. He'd excused himself to take an important business call that night and came back 45 minutes later with apologies and roses. "She's alive," I say numbly. She's alive. And she left this envelope with the restaurant manager, with very specific instructions. She knew he'd bring another woman here eventually. It's part of his pattern. Isaiah slides the envelope across the table. Mr. Nakamura has been holding this in his safe for 14 years, waiting. When I applied for a job here 6 months ago and explained everything, he started scheduling me on Friday nights. Because Richard, he always comes here on anniversary Fridays. I open the envelope with shaking hands. Inside is a letter written in neat, careful handwriting. To whoever he brings here next, my name is Helena Volkov. Though he told you I died, didn't he? Car accident, probably. Maybe cancer. He's good at dead wife stories. I didn't die. I left when I found out about wife number 2. But not before I documented everything. The bank accounts in different names, the social security numbers, all fake except the original Russian one. The pattern: marry a woman with a good job, preferably with security clearance. Drain her savings slowly. Take out credit cards in her name. Then, on a significant anniversary, create a massive debt she can't pay and disappear while she's arrested or humiliated. I've been tracking him for 37 years. The FBI has been watching him for 20. But he's careful, always moving, always changing names. Each wife thinks she's crazy when her money disappears. Each one is too ashamed to report the debt he leaves behind. If you're reading this, you're sitting with a bill you can't pay. Don't panic, don't pay it. The FBI is already on their way. Mr. Nakamura alerted them the moment he made your reservation 3 weeks ago. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And this ends tonight. Helena. I look up at Isaiah, and his face confirms everything. The FBI? They're here. They've been positioned around the restaurant since 6 p.m. They let him run this time because they finally have enough evidence. 8 wives, Grandma. You're number 8. And every single one had some connection to government work. You processed classified Defense Department contracts for 34 years. The room spins harder. My job, the one I'd been so proud of, working my way up from secretary to senior contracts administrator. Richard had always been so interested in my work, so supportive, asking thoughtful questions about projects and timelines and security protocols. He was spying, I whisper. For 40 years, Isaiah confirms. And you were his longest assignment because you had the highest clearance. The others, he'd marry them, extract what he needed in 5 to 10 years, and move on. But you were too valuable. So he stayed, and he played the perfect husband, and he took everything while using you to pass information to Russian intelligence. The waiter who'd served us champagne is walking toward our table, except now he's pulling out a badge. Mrs. Diane Richardson. Though that's not your legal name, is it, because your marriage to Richard Richardson was never legitimate? I'm Agent Raymond Carter with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Behind him, 3 more agents appear, moving through the restaurant with quiet efficiency. Other diners are being calmly ushered toward the exits. Mr. Nakamura is standing by the kitchen, his face grim but satisfied. I don't understand, I say, even though I'm starting to. If you knew, if you've been watching him, why didn't someone warn me? We tried, Agent Carter says gently, sitting in Richard's empty chair. 2 years ago, we approached your son, Terrence. Told him everything. Offered him protection if he'd help us. But you loved your husband, Mrs. Richardson. Terrence said you'd never believe it. You'd think we were lying or crazy or that he was betraying his father. So we waited. Gathered more evidence, built an airtight case, and then we waited for Victor to make his signature move. The anniversary dinner, the massive bill, the disappearing husband. Where is he? My voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. We have units tracking him now. He has 3 different identities and 4 different passports, but we've been monitoring all his accounts. The moment he tries to access any of them, we'll have him. Agent Carter pulls out a tablet and turns it toward me. Mrs. Richardson, I need to show you something. Are you ready? I nod, even though I'm not ready. I'll never be ready. The tablet screen fills with photographs. 8 women, all between their mid-20s and early 30s in the photos. All beautiful, all smiling. Below each photo are dates and names. Helena Volkov, married in 1967, disappeared in 1983. Works as a translator at the State Department. Corinne Jackson, married in 1984, divorced in 1994. Works as a cryptologist for the NSA. Yolanda Freeman, married in 1995, disappeared in 2003. Senior analyst at the CIA. He scrolls through 5 more women, 5 more government jobs, 5 more decades of lies. And you, he says, pulling up a photo. It's my wedding picture from 1985. I'm 27 years old, wearing my mother's pearls and my grandmother's veil, looking at Richard like he hung the moon. Diane Richardson, married in 1985, present day, Senior Contracts Administrator, Defense Department. Top secret security clearance. Access to classified weapons development projects worth $370 billion. The number is so large it doesn't feel real. I never told him anything classified, I protest. I never brought work home. I followed every protocol. You didn't have to tell him directly, Agent Carter says. You came home tired and mentioned a project was running behind schedule. You complained about a difficult contractor. You celebrated when a major milestone was reached. He's a trained intelligence officer, Mrs. Richardson. He knows how to assemble a picture from innocent pieces. And he had 40 years to do it. Isaiah reaches across the table and takes my hand. His hand is warm and real, and I cling to it like a lifeline. Grandma, we've been trying to reach you, but he blocked our numbers. When we came to the house, he said you were too sick for visitors. He told the neighbors you had early dementia and sometimes got confused about who people were. He what? Mrs. Monroe tried to check on you 3 times last month. Each time he turned her away, said you were sleeping, said you'd asked not to be disturbed. She finally called Terrence because she was worried. Beatrice, my neighbor of 15 years, who always brought me soup when I was sick, who watched Zoe when Vanessa needed help. Richard told me she'd moved to Florida to be near her daughter. She's still next door, Isaiah says. She's been worried sick. We all have. The fury hits me then, sudden and complete. Not the bill sitting on the table, not even the fake marriage or the spying, but the isolation, the careful, methodical way he'd cut me off from everyone who loved me, making them think I was sick, making me think they'd abandoned me. Your phone, Agent Carter says. May I see it? I hand it over, and he taps through screens I didn't know existed. Blocking apps, call forwarding. Any text from your children was being rerouted to a number we're now tracing. You never got their messages, Mrs. Richardson, and yours never reached them. But I saw him on the phone with Terrence last month, I say. They were laughing about something. Voice modulation software, Agent Carter says grimly. Probably having a conversation with himself or an associate, making you think your son still contacted him, even if he wasn't contacting you. The restaurant is empty now except for us, the agents, and Mr. Nakamura. The bill still sits on the table, and I start laughing. It's not a happy sound. It's the laugh of a woman who just realized her entire adult life was a performance, and she was the only one who didn't know she was acting. The bill, I manage between gasps. $5,000 for the privilege of finding out I've been married to a spy for 40 years. You're not paying it, Isaiah says firmly. The FBI is covering all costs associated with the investigation. And Grandma, there's more. More? I don't know if I can handle more. What else could there possibly be? Agent Carter pulls up another screen on his tablet. We've been tracking Victor's assets for 7 years. Multiple offshore accounts, real estate in 6 countries, investments under various shell corporations. Conservative estimate puts his total hidden wealth at $53 million. The number short-circuits something in my brain. Million? Stolen from his wives, embezzled from various employers, payments from Russian intelligence. All of it illegal, all of it traceable, and all of it subject to seizure under espionage and fraud statutes. Agent Carter's smile is sharp. Mrs. Richardson, the government is prepared to offer you $5 million as compensation for your unwitting cooperation in this investigation. Your information, innocently provided, helped us identify and track numerous intelligence operations. You've been an asset, even if you didn't know it. $5 million, I repeat stupidly. And that's just the government payment. The seized assets from Victor's accounts will be distributed among his victims. That's all 8 wives. His legitimate accounts, the ones he convinced you were your shared savings, those remain yours. Your name is on them. But I thought... My voice trails off. He said we only had $42,000 saved, that we needed to be careful with retirement. You have $417,000 in legitimate accounts, Agent Carter says. He kept you thinking you were poor while he spent your money on himself and stashed millions offshore. Isaiah is squeezing my hand so hard it hurts, but I don't pull away. The other wives, I manage. Are they? We've located 6 of the 8. Helena has been helping us coordinate outreach. She wants to meet you if you're willing. She said... Agent Carter glances at his notes. She said, "Tell number 8 that we're survivors, not victims, and we're going to make sure he never does this to number 9. There's a commotion at the restaurant entrance. Terrence bursts through, with Vanessa right behind him. My babies, except they're not babies anymore. They're adults with worry carved into their faces, and they're running toward me. Mama! Vanessa reaches me first, dropping to her knees beside my chair. Mama, we tried to get here sooner, but the roads were blocked and... We've been trying to reach you for 2 years, Terrence says, and there are tears streaming down his face. 2 years, Mama? He blocked us out. He made you think we abandoned you. I pull them both close. These children I made. These beautiful humans who grew up calling a Russian spy Daddy and never knew they were part of an intelligence operation. I'm sorry! I sob into Vanessa's hair. I'm so sorry! I should have known! I should have seen... How? Isaiah says fiercely. He's standing now, and I can see so much of Terrence in him, so much of me. He's a professional liar, Grandma. He fooled the State Department for 3 years in the 70s. He fooled the FBI for decades. How were you supposed to see what trained agents couldn't catch? Agent Carter's phone buzzes. He glances at it, and his expression shifts into something predatory. We have him. He's at Reagan National, trying to board a flight to Mexico City using a Canadian passport under the name Robert Chen. He looks at me. Mrs. Richardson, would you like to be there when we bring him in? Every instinct screams yes. I want to see his face when he realizes it's over. I want him to know that I know everything. But then I look at my children, at my grandson who got a job at a fancy restaurant just to protect me, at these FBI agents who've been working for years to stop a man who destroyed 8 women's lives. No, I say. I want to go home. My real home with my family where he can't touch me anymore. Then let us take you, Terrence says. We're not letting you out of our sight. Agent Carter nods approvingly. We'll need you to come to the field office tomorrow to make a formal statement. But tonight, be with your family. He stands, then pauses. Mrs. Richardson, one more thing. That house you're living in? The one on Oakmont Avenue? Yes? It's in your name. Only your name. He never added himself to the deed, which means he can't sell it, can't mortgage it, can't touch it. Whatever else he took, he didn't take your home. It's such a small mercy compared to everything else, but somehow it's the detail that breaks me. My home. The house where I raised my babies, where I painted the kitchen yellow because it made me happy, where I planted roses every spring. He couldn't take that. Isaiah helps me stand, and my legs are shaky, but they hold. The bill still sits on the table, that ridiculous $5,000 piece of paper that was supposed to destroy me. Can I keep it? I ask suddenly. Agent Carter raises an eyebrow. The bill? As a reminder that I survived. I pick it up, fold it carefully, and tuck it into my purse. $5,347 for the truth. Seems like a bargain, actually. As we walk toward the exit, Mr. Nakamura steps forward. He's a small, elderly man with kind eyes that have seen too much. Mrs. Richardson, he says in accented English. Helena saved my life once, many years ago. I promised her I would watch. I would wait. I would help the next woman who needed it. He bows slightly. I am only sorry it took so long. You kept your promise, I tell him. Thank you. Outside, the cool November air hits my face, and I take a deep breath. It's 9:47 p.m. on my 40th anniversary. I'm standing on a D.C. sidewalk with my children and my grandson, learning that my husband is a Russian spy, and my marriage was fake, and somehow, impossibly, I feel lighter than I have in years. Mama? Vanessa says quietly. There's something else we need to tell you. About Dad. About Victor? About... She glances at Terrence, who nods. About why this is happening now, after all these years. What do you mean? Agent Carter appears beside us. Mrs. Richardson, we've been building this case for a long time. But 3 months ago, we got a break. Victor made a mistake. He contacted someone from his old life. Someone who's been working with us for 15 years. Helena, I say. No, someone else. Agent Carter's expression is grave. Someone who was supposed to be dead but wasn't. Someone who had evidence we desperately needed but wouldn't come forward until they knew all the wives would be protected. The pieces start clicking together in a way that makes my blood run cold. Wife number 9, I whisper. He already found someone else. Her name is Trinity, Agent Carter says. She's 31 years old, works at the Department of Energy, and 3 months ago, she married a man named Robert Walsh, who claimed to be a retired software engineer from Seattle. She's been married to him for 97 days. If we hadn't caught him tonight, he would have abandoned her on their 6-month anniversary with a debt of $8,000 and a ruined credit score. Does she know? I ask. Not yet. We wanted to catch him first, to make sure she was safe, but we'll need to tell her tomorrow. Agent Carter's phone buzzes again. They have him in custody. He tried to run when he saw our agents. It took 4 of them to restrain him. Good, I think viciously. I hope it hurt. Mama? Terrence's voice is gentle. Let's get you home. But as we reach Terrence's car, I turn back to look at Chateau Bisset. The chandeliers are still glowing through the windows, and I can see the table where I sat, where my perfect anniversary dinner turned into the detonation of my entire life. And all I can think is, what happens next? The house looked exactly the same as it had when Victor, drove us away 6 hours ago. Same yellow kitchen curtains I'd hung last spring. Same porch light that flickered every 3rd time you turned it on. Same rose bushes I'd pruned 2 weeks ago, their late-season blooms already dying in the November cold. But everything was different now. Terrence unlocked my front door with a key I didn't know he had, and when I raised my eyebrows, Vanessa said quietly, "We had copies made last year. We were planning an intervention before Thanksgiving. We needed all the evidence first." Inside, the living room smelled like the lavender potpourri I refreshed every Sunday. Family photos covered the mantel, graduation pictures, wedding photos, grandchildren's school portraits. In every single one that included Richard, he was smiling that warm, crinkly-eyed smile that I thought meant love, but apparently meant successful intelligence operation in progress. "Sit down, Mama," Terrence said, guiding me to the couch. "We need to show you some things before the FBI comes tomorrow." Isaiah disappeared into my kitchen and returned with a glass of water and my blood pressure medication. I didn't ask how he knew where I kept it. At this point, it seemed everyone knew more about my life than I did. Vanessa pulled a laptop from her bag. When had she brought a bag? And set it on the coffee table. 3 years ago, you mentioned that your savings account seemed lower than you remembered. Do you recall that? I did. I'd thought I was losing my mind. Richard had shown me the statements, explained that I must have forgotten some purchases, suggested gently that maybe I should let him handle the finances since I was getting stressed about numbers. I remember, I said. That's when we started investigating. Just small stuff at first, checking your account statements, looking at credit reports. Mama, you had 6 credit cards we didn't know about, all maxed out. Total debt of $93,000. The water glass slipped from my hand, soaking into the carpet. 93,000? He paid them off 2 months ago, Terrence said, right before your anniversary. Wiped them clean using money from an offshore account, probably to make sure nothing flagged before his big exit. But Mama, those cards, you never opened them. He did, using your information. Vanessa turned the laptop toward me. Spreadsheets filled the screen, color-coded and annotated. We've been tracking every transaction we could find. Look at this. Every year around your anniversary, there's a spike in spending. Expensive jewelry that you never received, luxury hotel rooms in cities you've never visited, first-class plane tickets to Moscow, to Prague, to Berlin. He told me he traveled for work, I whispered. Consulting jobs. He'd be gone for weeks. He was traveling for work, Isaiah said bitterly. Just not the kind he told you about. Terrence pulled up another document. Then we found this. Property records in Grand Cayman. A villa worth $2.3 million. Purchased in 2012 under the name Victor Volkov. The same year you took out that second mortgage to help us when I lost my job. I remembered. Terrence had been unemployed for 8 months, had 3 children to feed, was about to lose his house. Richard had been so supportive, so generous, suggesting we refinance to help our son. Except, you never lost your job, I said slowly. No, Mama. I changed jobs and took a 2-week gap between positions. That's all. But somehow he convinced you I was desperate, and you gave him $75,000 that I never saw. He told you I was too proud to thank you directly. The rage built in my chest like a physical thing, hot and sharp. Where did the money go? The villa, and this. Vanessa clicked to a new screen showing a yacht, an actual yacht, gleaming white and obscenely expensive. The Helena's Revenge, registered in the Bahamas. He named it after his first wife. Either he's got a sick sense of humor, or he really thought no one would ever connect the dots. How much? My voice sounded strange, detached. Total. How much did he steal from me? Terrence and Vanessa exchanged looks. From you directly? About $467,000 over 40 years. But that's not counting the opportunity cost, the investments you could have made, the interest you should have earned, the retirement you should have been building. Conservative estimate, including projected growth? $1.2 million. $1.2 million. I'd worked for 42 years, taken the bus to save on gas, bought generic brands, skipped vacations, wore the same winter coat for a decade. And he'd stolen $1.2 million while telling me we needed to be careful with money. There's more, Vanessa said softly. And this is the part that really made us push the FBI to act now. She pulled up a medical document, and my name was at the top. 6 months ago, you went to Dr. Patterson for your annual physical, remember? Of course, clean bill of health except for the high blood pressure. Except that's not what your actual results said. Vanessa's hands were shaking as she clicked through pages. Your results showed early signs of kidney disease. Not serious, very treatable, but requiring monitoring and medication. Dr. Patterson called to schedule a follow-up. No, she didn't. She did. 4 times. but Victor intercepted every call. Then he hacked into the patient portal. We have the IP address traced to his laptop and altered your results. Made them look normal. You never got treatment, Mama. For 6 months you've had a treatable condition that he deliberately hid from you. The room tilted. Why would he? Life insurance, Terrence said flatly. You have a policy worth $500,000. If you died of kidney failure, it would look natural. Tragic, but natural. And guess who the beneficiary is? I was going to be sick. This man I'd slept beside for 40 years, who I'd nursed through the flu and celebrated birthdays with and grown old alongside. He was literally waiting for me to die, preferably from a treatable disease he'd hidden from me. We confronted him, Isaiah said, 2 months ago. Grandpa Terrence and I went to his office, he made air quotes, and told him we knew what he was doing. Told him to leave you alone or we'd go to the police. What did he say? He laughed, Terrence said, and I could hear the rage buried in his voice. Said we had no proof, that you'd never believe us, that you loved him too much. Then he said if we tried to turn you against him, he'd make sure we never saw you again. And he did, Mama. He changed the locks the next day, set up those call-blocking apps, told everyone you were getting dementia, and we were trying to take advantage of you. Mrs. Monroe heard him, Vanessa added. He was talking to someone on the phone in the driveway, saying how he'd isolated the asset and just needed to wait for natural causes. She recorded it on her phone and brought it to us. That's when we went to the FBI. I thought about Beatrice Monroe, my neighbor who'd lived next door for 15 years, who brought me vegetable soup and watched terrible reality TV with me on Thursday nights, who Richard said had moved to Florida. Where is she? I asked. I need to see her. She's next door, waiting, Vanessa said. She's been waiting for 3 hours. But Mama, there's one more thing you need to see first. Terrence pulled up a video file. The timestamp showed it was from 3 days ago, recorded on what looked like a security camera. The footage showed my kitchen, and Richard was there with a woman I'd never seen before. She was young, maybe 30, with dark hair and a nervous smile. Trinity Harper, Vanessa said. Wife number 9. I watched Victor. I couldn't think of him as Richard anymore. Watched him give this woman the same warm hug he gave me every morning. Watched him kiss her forehead the same way. Watched him call her sweetheart and darling and every pet name I thought belonged to me. He brought her here? My voice cracked. To our house? Twice a week for the last month, Terrence said. Always when you were at church or your book club. We installed hidden cameras after we confronted him. We needed proof for the FBI. Mama, he was showing her the house, telling her it would be theirs soon, telling her you were a difficult tenant he was having trouble evicting. The fury exploded. I stood up so fast the laptop nearly fell. He was going to evict me from my own house? That was the plan, Isaiah confirmed. Get you sick enough that you needed nursing care, use the doctored medical records to have you declared incompetent, take power of attorney, and then sell the house out from under you. Trinity thought she was moving into her dream home. She had no idea it was stolen. I paced the living room, my hands clenched into fists. 40 years. 40 years of cooking his favorite meals and ironing his shirts and believing every lie. 40 years of thinking I was building a life when I was really just being systematically destroyed. Does she know yet? I asked. Trinity? The FBI is telling her right now, Vanessa said, checking her phone. Agent Carter said they'd bring her by tomorrow if she wants to meet you. She's not taking it well. Of course she wasn't. She was living my nightmare, just beginning where I was ending. My phone rang, my real phone, not the compromised one Victor had been controlling. Terrence had given me a new one in the car, already loaded with all my real contacts, all the messages that had been blocked for 2 years. The screen showed Pastor Hayes. I answered, and his warm voice filled the room. Sister Diane, praise God, Terrence said you were safe. Baby, Half the church is here at my house right now, waiting to hear you're all right. Half the church? We've been praying for you for 6 months, ever since Sister Paulette saw that man of yours. Well, I guess he's not your man. Saw him with another woman at the mall. We didn't know what to do, didn't want to hurt you with rumors. But Sister Paulette, she's been keeping watch. She saw him bring that young lady to your house, and she called me immediately. Sister Paulette, who led the choir and always saved me a seat in the third pew, who Victor said was too nosy and suggested I find a different church. Pastor, I need to come see everyone, I said. I need my church family. We're here, baby. We've always been here. You come whenever you're ready. I looked at my children, at my grandson who'd gotten a job at a fancy restaurant just to protect me, at this family that Victor tried to steal. Let's go now. I need to tell them what happened. My voice broke. I need people who actually love me. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to Pastor Hayes's house. The driveway was packed with cars, and through the windows I could see my church family crowded into his living room. They must have called everyone the moment they heard. Sister Paulette met me at the door, and she didn't say a word. Just pulled me into a hug that smelled like cocoa butter and prayer and home. We knew, baby, she whispered. We didn't know all of it, but we knew something was wrong. Forgive us for not acting sooner. Inside, 43 people from New Hope Baptist Church stood when I entered. My choir sisters, the deacons, the youth group leaders. Mrs. Monroe was there too, sitting with Sister Paulette's daughter, and when she saw me, she started crying. Pastor Hayes guided me to a chair. Sister Diane, we're all here for you, whatever you need. And suddenly, I was angry. Not sad, not embarrassed, furious. These people had been my family for 32 years. They'd celebrated my children's baptisms and my grandchildren's births. They'd brought casseroles when I had surgery and prayed over me during hard times. And Victor had tried to cut them away from me too. I need you to know the truth, I said, and my voice was stronger than I expected. All of it. Because that man, Victor Volkov, he didn't just betray me. He disrespected this entire community. He sat in our pews and ate at our potlucks and smiled in our faces while he was stealing from me and lying to everyone. I told them everything. The fake marriage, the 8 wives, the spying, the stolen money, the hidden medical records, every detail that made their faces cycle through shock and rage and grief. And the worst part, I said, is that he made me doubt all of you, made me think Sister Paulette was gossiping when she was trying to protect me, made me think Mrs. Monroe had moved away when she was right next door, worried about me, made me think my own children had abandoned me when they were fighting to save me. Sister Paulette stood up, her face set in lines of righteous fury. That man came into the house of the Lord and mocked us all. But he forgot something important. We don't fight alone. That's right, Deacon Williams called out. What does he need? Prayer, someone said. No, Sister Paulette corrected. Sister Diane needs prayer. That man needs justice. And we're going to make sure she gets both. Pastor Hayes nodded. The Bible says to test the spirits. We should have tested him harder. But we can make this right. Sister Diane, what do you need from us? I need witnesses, I said. The FBI said they'd need people to testify about how he isolated me, how he lied about my health, how he kept people away. Can you— Yes, came a chorus of voices. I'll testify, Mrs. Monroe said, standing. I recorded him on my phone talking about removing obstacles. I'll give them everything. I saw him with that young woman 3 times, Sister Paulette added. I took pictures, dates, times. I'll testify. One by one, my church family stood up with evidence I didn't know they'd been gathering. Deacon Williams had seen Victor meeting with strange men in expensive cars, had written down license plate numbers. Sister Clark had watched him load boxes into a storage unit and had the address. Brother Timothy, who worked at the bank, had flagged suspicious transactions on my accounts, but Victor had somehow gotten them dismissed. "We've been building a case without knowing we were building a case," Pastor Hayes said wonderfully. "The Lord works in mysterious ways." My phone buzzed. A text from Agent Carter. "Victor in custody. Formal interrogation begins tomorrow at 8 a.m. You're welcome to attend." I showed the message to Pastor Hayes and he smiled. "Then we'll be there. All of us who can get off work. He's going to see that you're not alone, that you never were." We prayed then, all 43 of us, hands joined in Pastor Hayes' living room. Not prayers for Victor's redemption, though I'm sure someone slipped one in, but prayers for strength and justice and healing. Prayers that felt like armor. When we finished, Vanessa pulled me aside. "Mama, Agent Carter sent me something else. They searched Victor's apartment, the one you didn't know he had, and they found files on all 8 wives. Detailed profiles, vulnerabilities, strategies. Yours was labeled long game and had a projected end date. When? Your 68th birthday, 4 months from now. He was planning to have you committed to a nursing home by then." 4 months. If my children hadn't investigated, if Isaiah hadn't gotten that job, if Helena hadn't left that letter 14 years ago, I would have been declared mentally incompetent and locked away in 4 months, and no one would have questioned it because my loving husband would have seemed so caring and concerned. "There's something else," Vanessa said quietly. "Trinity Harper? The FBI just called. She's not just wife number 9. She's pregnant." The room spun. "What?" 6 weeks. She just found out last week. She was going to tell him tomorrow. Vanessa's voice was shaking. "Mama, the FBI thinks he was going to kill her. They found searches on his laptop about accidental falls and miscarriage statistics. He was researching how to make it look like she lost the baby naturally, and then he was going to abandon her like all the others." I sat down hard. A baby. He was going to kill a baby. "Where is she now?" I demanded. "Protective custody. She's terrified, Mama. She thought she'd found her soulmate, and now she's learning he's a monster. And she's all alone, no family nearby, no support system. That's why he picked her." I looked at Pastor Hayes. "Can we bring her here?" "To my house?" He didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. This is a sanctuary. If that young lady needs safety and family, she'll have it." "I'll call Agent Carter," Terrence said, already dialing. An hour later, a black FBI SUV pulled up. Trinity Harper stepped out, and my heart broke. She was tiny, maybe 5 feet tall, with red eyes and hands that couldn't stop shaking. She looked like a child playing dress-up in adult clothes, and she was carrying a baby that a monster had planned to murder. I walked to her, and she flinched. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was married. He told me—" "I know what he told you," I said gently. "He told you that you were special, that he'd been waiting his whole life for someone like you. That fate brought you together." Her eyes went wide. "How did you—" "Because he told me the same thing 40 years ago. And it was a lie then, too." I took her hands. They were ice cold. "But you listen to me, Trinity Harper. You are not responsible for his evil. You're a victim, just like the rest of us. And we're going to make sure you and that baby are safe." She broke down crying, and I held this stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all. She was me at 27. She was every woman who'd ever believed a lie wrapped in a smile. Pastor Hayes approached us gently. "Miss Trinity, welcome to New Hope Baptist. You're safe here. We have a guest room ready, and Sister Paulette makes the best breakfast in 3 states. "I don't understand," Trinity whispered. "Why are you being nice to me? I was in your house. He showed me your photos and said terrible things about you, and I believed him." "That's what he does," I said. "He finds the crack in your heart and wedges it open. But you didn't put that crack there, baby. He did. and you don't have to carry his shame. Agent Carter stepped forward. Ladies, I hate to interrupt, but we have a situation. Victor's lawyer just posted bail. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. What? How? He had assets we didn't know about, offshore accounts and names we hadn't traced yet. His lawyer, and it's a very expensive lawyer, posted $800,000 cash bail 20 minutes ago. He's being released on electronic monitoring. But Mrs. Richardson, he knows where you live, and Trinity, he definitely knows where you live. He's out? Trinity's voice was barely audible. He's out, and he knows about the baby now? He was served with all the charges, including conspiracy to commit murder related to your pregnancy. He knows we know. Agent Carter's jaw was tight. We have agents watching him, but I need you both in secure locations until the trial. No, I said. The word surprised me with its force. No more running, no more hiding. This is my house, my community, my life. He took 40 years from me. He's not taking one more day. Mama, be reasonable, Terrence started. I am being reasonable. We have security cameras now, right? We have the church watching. We have the FBI monitoring him. What's he going to do, walk up to my front door with everyone watching? But even as I said it, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You always were stubborn, Diane. It's one of the things I'll miss least. Victor had my new number. He'd had it for less than 6 hours, and he already had my new number. Agent Carter's face went pale as his own phone started ringing. He answered, listened for 10 seconds, and his expression turned to stone. The monitoring bracelet. He cut it off 2 minutes ago. He's in the wind. Trinity made a small, terrified sound. I grabbed her hand and squeezed. Find him, I said to Agent Carter. We'll be at my house, surrounded by family and cameras and witnesses. Let him come. Let him try. I'm done being afraid of the man I wasted 40 years on. But as we drove back to my house, with FBI vehicles flanking us and my church family caravanning behind, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was what Victor wanted, that we were playing into his hands somehow, that the real nightmare was just beginning. The brick came through my kitchen window at 3:47 in the morning. I was already awake, sitting at the table with Trinity and Sister Paulette, drinking coffee none of us wanted but holding because it gave our hands something to do. The FBI had agents parked outside, Terrence was sleeping on my couch, and Vanessa was in the guest room with Zoe. We'd turned my house into a fortress, but fortresses can still be breached. The brick landed on my kitchen floor with a crash that brought everyone running. Wrapped around it was a note in handwriting I'd seen on 40 years of birthday cards. You took everything from me. Now I take everything from you. He's here, Trinity whispered, her hands instinctively going to her stomach. Agent Carter was through my door in seconds, weapon drawn. Everyone to the back of the house, now! But I walked to the broken window instead, looked out into my dark yard, at the rose bushes I'd planted, the porch swing where I'd rocked my babies. And there he was, standing at the edge of my property line, just far enough to stay in shadow, but close enough that I could see his face. Victor smiled at me. Even now, even caught and exposed, he smiled like he'd already won. Mrs. Richardson, step away from the window, Agent Carter commanded. No. I opened my back door and walked onto my porch. Behind me I heard Terrence shouting, heard Sister Paulette praying, heard Trinity crying. But I kept walking until I stood in my yard, facing the man who'd stolen 40 years of my life. Diane, Victor said, his accent thicker than I'd ever heard it. Not Richard's smooth American vowels. This was Victor Volkov, Russian intelligence officer, and he wasn't hiding anymore. You always were the stubborn one. Corinne begged, Yolanda cried, Helena just left. But you had to make this difficult. You tried to kill a pregnant woman, I said. My voice didn't shake. You hid my medical records so I'd die slowly. You stole from 8 women and sold American secrets to Russia for 50 years, and you think I'm the one making this difficult? You were supposed to die quietly, he said, almost conversationally. In your sleep, maybe. Kidney failure is very peaceful. Instead, you've cost me everything. $53 million, frozen. My real estate seized. My reputation destroyed. Do you have any idea how many years I've worked for this? I worked too, I spat back. I worked for 42 years at a job I loved, raised 2 children, built a home, and you hollowed it all out like a parasite. FBI agents were surrounding us now, but Victor didn't seem to care. You want to know the funny part? You were my favorite. The others, they were assignments, but you almost made me believe in it. The life, the family, the house with yellow curtains. He laughed, and it was the coldest sound I'd ever heard. Almost. Then I'd remember what I was really here for, and it was just funny again. Trinity appeared beside me, and I tried to push her back, but she held her ground. You told me you loved me, she said, her voice breaking. 3 months ago. You said I was your miracle. You were convenient, Victor said. Young, trusting, Department of Energy credentials. The pregnancy was unfortunate timing, but I would have handled it. Handled it, Trinity repeated. You mean murdered our baby? It wasn't our baby. It was an obstacle. He shrugged, like he was discussing a broken appliance. Just like Diane became an obstacle when she didn't die on schedule. That's when I saw Helena. She walked up my driveway like a ghost made flesh. A 79-year-old woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. Behind her came 6 more women, Corinne, Yolanda, and 4 others whose faces I'd only seen in FBI photos. 8 wives standing together for the first time. Hello, Victor, Helena said. Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands trembling. It's been 42 years. You're looking old. Victor's smile finally slipped. Helena, still alive, still meddling. Still documenting your crimes, she corrected. Still making sure every woman you destroyed gets justice. Did you know wife number 3 is a federal judge now? Wife number 5 runs a foundation for fraud victims. Wife number 6 wrote a book about intelligence operations that's required reading at Quantico. She stepped closer. You thought you broke us, but we built lives you couldn't touch. And now we're going to bury you. Corinne, a beautiful woman in her early 60s, spoke next. I spent 14 years thinking I was crazy, that I'd imagined the missing money, the secret meetings, the lies. You almost destroyed my mind, Victor. But I got help. I healed, and I've been waiting for this moment since 1994. One by one, the wives spoke, each one with a story of betrayal and survival, each one with evidence they'd saved, documents they'd hidden, testimonies they'd prepared. Victor looked at all of us, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. You can't prove anything. I'm a U.S. citizen. I have rights. You're Victor Alexandrovich Volkov, Agent Carter said, stepping forward with handcuffs. Born in Moscow in 1948, recruited by the KGB in 1966. Sent to America in 1967 under deep cover, and you're under arrest for espionage, fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 47 other charges that will keep you in prison for the rest of your life. Victor tried to run. At 77 years old, after decades of soft living on stolen money, he actually tried to run. He made it 6 feet before 3 FBI agents tackled him to my lawn, face down in the grass next to my rose bushes. As they pulled him up, dirt on his face and cuffs on his wrists, he looked at me one last time. You're nothing without me, Diane. You'll die alone in this house and no one will remember you. Wrong, Trinity said fiercely. She'll be remembered as the woman who stopped you. We all will. They took him away in the back of an FBI vehicle, and I watched until the taillights disappeared. Then I turned to Helena, this woman who'd been tracking a monster for 42 years, and I said, "Thank you." "Thank each other," she said, gesturing to the other wives. "We're survivors. That makes us sisters." 6 weeks later, I walked into the United States District Court for the District of Columbia wearing my best navy dress and the pearl earrings my grandmother gave me. My children flanked me on one side. The other 7 wives sat behind me. Trinity was there too, 12 weeks pregnant now and glowing despite everything. The courtroom was packed. Media from every major outlet, diplomats from 6 countries, every FBI agent who'd worked the case, and 43 members of New Hope Baptist Church who'd taken the day off work to watch justice happen. Victor was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, and he looked smaller than I remembered, diminished. The man who'd seemed so powerful in my kitchen, who'd controlled my life for 40 years, was just an old criminal now. "All rise," the bailiff called. "The Honorable Judge Clarence Thompson presiding." Judge Thompson was a stern-faced man in his 60s who'd reportedly read every page of the 800-page case file. He looked at Victor with the expression of someone examining something unpleasant on his shoe. "Mr. Volkov," Judge Thompson said, "you've been charged with 237 counts spanning 5 decades of criminal activity. How do you plead?" Victor's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit who'd probably never met a guilty client he believed in, stood. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty to all charges and moves to dismiss on grounds of—" "Denied," Judge Thompson said flatly. "Sit down. We're going to trial." The trial lasted 11 days. 11 days of testimony from FBI agents, forensic accountants, intelligence analysts, and 8 women who'd survived a predator. 11 days of evidence so overwhelming that even Victor's lawyer started to look uncomfortable. Helena testified first, her voice clear and strong as she described finding the offshore accounts in 1982. "I was doing laundry," she said. "Found a receipt in his pocket from a bank I'd never heard of. Started investigating. Took me 14 months to trace it all, but by then I had proof of his real identity. I went to the FBI, but he disappeared before they could arrest him. I've been tracking him ever since." Corinne described the psychological torture, how Victor had slowly convinced her she was mentally ill. "He'd move my keys and then help me look for them. Change my prescriptions without telling me. Tell me I'd said things I never said. For 10 years, I thought I was losing my mind. It wasn't until I was in therapy that I realized it was deliberate." Yolanda, who'd worked at the CIA, explained how Victor had extracted information. He never asked directly, just created situations where I'd volunteer information. A stressful day at work, and he'd bring me wine and say, "Tell me what's bothering you." I'd vent about a difficult operation, never using classified specifics, but he'd piece together enough to pass to his handlers. I gave him the names of 3 undercover operatives without even knowing it. 2 of them were killed. The courtroom went silent. Victor's lawyer objected, but Judge Thompson overruled. Trinity testified on day 7, visibly pregnant now, her voice shaking but determined. "He told me we were soulmates, that he'd waited his whole life for me. Then I found the searches on his laptop about miscarriages and falls. He was planning to kill my baby and make it look like an accident." She looked directly at Victor. "You told me you loved me, but you can't love anyone. You're empty inside." When it was my turn, I walked to the stand and swore on the Bible to tell the truth. I looked at the jury, 12 people who would decide Victor's fate, and I told them everything. "He took 40 years of my life," I said. "Took my money, my health, my trust. He isolated me from my children and my church. He hid medical records that could have saved my life because he was waiting for me to die. And the whole time, he smiled and called me darling and pretended we were building a life together." "Mrs. Richardson," the prosecutor asked gently, "do you have anything you'd like to say to the defendant?" I looked at Victor. He was staring at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. "I forgive you," I said, and his head snapped up in shock. "Not for you. You don't deserve my forgiveness. but for me. Because carrying hatred for you would mean giving you even more of my life, and you've taken enough. So I forgive you, and I release you. And I hope you spend every single day in prison remembering that 8 women survived you. 8 women are thriving, and you're nothing but a footnote in our stories of survival. The prosecution rested on day 9. Victor's defense lasted 43 minutes and consisted mainly of claiming he'd been coerced by Russian intelligence and deserved leniency. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 14 minutes. On count 1, espionage, how do you find? Guilty. On count 2, fraud, how do you find? Guilty. 237 times the jury foreman said, guilty. 237 counts, not a single acquittal. Judge Thompson scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later, but before dismissing us, he did something unusual. He addressed Victor directly. Mr. Volkov, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I've seen murderers, terrorists, and traitors. But I've never seen someone who destroyed lives with such casual cruelty. You didn't just steal money, you stole decades. You didn't just commit espionage, you weaponized love. These women came here seeking justice, and they're going to get it. But I want you to know that your real punishment isn't what I'm going to sentence you to. It's that you'll be forgotten. You're a footnote, a cautionary tale. And these 8 women will go on to live beautiful, meaningful lives while you rot in a cell and no one will remember your name. Victor finally broke. He started shouting in Russian, screaming obscenities, fighting the marshals as they dragged him from the courtroom. It took 4 of them to get him through the door. The courtroom erupted. My church family was on their feet, crying and cheering. The other wives were hugging each other. Trinity collapsed into my arms, sobbing. It's over, I told her. It's finally over. But as the crowd celebrated, I felt strangely empty. 40 years of my life, vindicated in 2 hours of jury deliberation. It should have felt bigger somehow, more dramatic. Then Helena took my hand, and Corinne took my other hand, and suddenly all 8 of us were standing in a circle in the middle of the courtroom, holding hands like we were praying. And maybe we were. This isn't the end, Helena said. This is the beginning of us taking back our lives, of us helping the next woman who needs it, of us turning our pain into purpose. A foundation, Yolanda said suddenly. We should start a foundation for women recovering from financial abuse and betrayal. Use the seized assets to help others. The Viktor Volkov Victim Relief Fund, I said, and everyone laughed. Even Trinity. 2 weeks later, Judge Thompson sentenced Victor to 4 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. He'd be 153 years old before he could even apply for release. The $53 million in seized assets was divided among the 8 wives and Trinity. Each of us received $5.8 million. But more importantly, we received validation that what happened to us was real, was wrong, and mattered. My kidney disease was treated, a simple medication that Dr. Patterson prescribed as soon as I came in with my real medical records. She apologized for not following up harder, but I told her it wasn't her fault. Victor had been a professional liar for 50 years. How could she have known? Trinity moved into an apartment 3 blocks from me. She didn't want to be alone during her pregnancy, and I didn't want to be alone in my house with yellow curtains. We had dinner together every Tuesday, along with Vanessa and Zoe. We were building something new, a family not based on lies. The other wives and I started the Survivor Sisters Foundation. Helena ran it, with Yolanda handling security and Corinne managing the legal aspects. In our first month, we helped 17 women escape financially abusive relationships. By month 6, we'd helped 203. Terrence and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. He apologized for not telling me sooner, and I apologized for being so blind that he felt he couldn't. Isaiah got accepted to Georgetown Law School and said he wanted to specialize in fraud cases. Like grandmother, like grandson, he joked. New Hope Baptist threw me a celebration dinner 3 months after the trial. Every member came, plus the 6 wives who could travel, plus Trinity with her growing belly, plus Agent Carter and half the FBI team. Pastor Hayes stood to make a toast. "Sister Diane, you came to us 32 years ago as a young mother looking for a church home. We've watched you raise your children, serve this community, and live your faith. When darkness came, you didn't break. You bent, like the willow in the storm, and when it passed, you stood tall again. You're a testament to the power of faith, family, and stubbornness." Everyone laughed. "So here's to Sister Diane," he continued, raising his glass, "who turned betrayal into purpose, pain into power, and a lying Russian spy into a life sentence. May we all have half your strength." "To Sister Diane!" the room chorused. I stood, my legs shaky but holding, and looked at all these beautiful faces, my real family, the ones who'd fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. "I spent 40 years building a life on a foundation of lies," I said. "But that life still had real things in it. Real children, real love from real friends, real faith in a real God. Victor couldn't take that, no matter how hard he tried. So yes, he stole 40 years. But I'm 67 years old, and if my mama's genes are any indication, I've got at least 30 more good years left. And I'm going to spend every single one of them surrounded by people who actually love me, doing work that actually matters, and living a life that's actually mine." 6 months after the trial, Trinity gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Helena Diane, after the 2 women who saved her life. I was in the delivery room when she was born, and when the nurse placed that tiny, perfect baby in my arms, I felt something shift. This was what Victor couldn't understand. This right here. New life, new hope, new beginnings. He'd thought destroying us would prove his power, but all he'd done was prove that love is stronger than hate, that truth is stronger than lies, and that 8 stubborn women with faith and fury can take down even the most careful predator. I still live in my house with yellow curtains, still go to New Hope Baptist every Sunday, still have Tuesday dinners with Trinity and baby Helena and my daughters and granddaughters, still meet with the other wives once a month to run our foundation and share our stories. And every morning, when I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by people who actually love me, I think about Victor rotting in a prison cell 300 miles away. And I smile, because he was wrong about one thing. I'm not nothing without him. I'm everything I was always meant to be. Free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.